Okay. So the lymphocytes. Oxygen dissociation curve. You remember better oxygen dissociation curve we have discussed previously when we were doing respiratory system. How many oxygen molecules one hemoglobin molecule binds better? 7 Emma Ritika, speak to me. 4 molecules of oxygen, isn't it? What is the shape of the curve? Do you remember? Like this it is, right? So, yeah, this one. See, oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve is the question. Okay, it is. Basically it comes for essay, but now it has come for uh, 4 marks. For you, it will be 5 marks. So, see here. Now, see, this is like basically I told you one hemoglobin molecule will have affinity for 4 oxygen molecules. Initially, to bind with one oxygen molecule, it will be very difficult. Okay, so the first site of the hemoglobin will have high inertia to bind with oxygen molecule. That's the reason you will see partial pressure of oxygen is around like 25 mm of G, and you are seeing now the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin, only one hemoglobin molecule will be one oxygen molecule will come and bind at this particular percentage saturation of hemoglobin. So once you will see like one molecule of oxygen is binding with hemoglobin, there all 3 sites are opened up. Second, third and fourth sites of also hemoglobin will open up, and it will cause the remaining 3 oxygen molecules to bind with the hemoglobin site very easily. So that's how this shape of this curve it goes like this. Okay. So this is oxygen. See, it's the curve that demonstrates relationship between partial pressure of oxygen and percentage saturation of hemoglobin. So partial pressure is seen on x-axis, and percentage saturation we are finding on y-axis. Okay, beta? So that is. So whatever I told you is written in the form of words. Okay. So we actually studied this much in detail. Shift to right. Shift to right means, see here, you are shown in green line. So this is shift to right. So shift to right, where do we see? See here. So decrease in partial pressure of oxygen. Actually, this is actually called as Bohr's effect. This itself may come as a separate question. That means the affinity for the hemoglobin is like more, and like the combination of oxygen molecules with hemoglobin is occurring at a faster rate and at a easier pace. Okay, that's what is actually shift to right. Oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve is shifted to right whenever there is decrease in partial pressure of oxygen and increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, increase in hydrogen ion concentration, increase in body temperature. Overall, you see here better, it is actually good when you see the pressure like shift to right. Okay, shift to left is quite opposite to what we study for shift to right. Okay, so in fetal blood, because fetal hemoglobin has more affinity and decrease in hydrogen ion concentration. Okay, so Bohr's effect, whatever you have studied for shift to right, you will elaborate the same thing for Bohr's effect. Okay, just go through once nicely, slowly, you will definitely understand. And if you don't understand, I will explain you again in my next class. Okay, then what is high altitude? In the same chapter, we also have high altitude. That means as we go up, oxygen concentration in the atmosphere will reduce, right? So RBC production will increase so as to compensate for the less oxygen found in the atmosphere. Okay, that is high altitude. Now let us check exactly what is being asked. Changes occurring during acclimatization to high altitude. What is acclimatization? Our body is adjusting gradually to high altitude by
Getting
increasing.
used to it.
Huh? Yeah, our body is becoming used to
Getting
it.
used to something.
Yeah, very good, very good. Here, see here, high altitude is, we have different types of high altitudes. Like if it is 8,000 to 13,000 feet from the like land area when you just measure. This is high altitude. So now see here, barometric pressure. Okay. So now he is asking high altitude and also acclimatization. So that means, see, first of all, it's better you give this table better. High altitude, that means when you are measuring from sea level, how much is feet? 5,000 feet is like uh, the barometric pressure is 600 and partial pressure of oxygen is 132. Here patient like will not suffer with any oxygen deficiency, so no hypoxia. So gradually you can check with this. Now see, the highest altitude is 50,000 where the barometric pressure is 87 and partial pressure of oxygen is falling down to such a low 18 only it is. So hypoxia becomes more severe even if you give pure oxygen. That means this is a place where the person is in a dangerous phase where he has to carry oxygen cylinder. Okay, firstly, that's what he's asking, high altitude and then acclimatization. As Ritika is telling us, acclimatization means our body is adjusting gradually to that high altitude. That is adaptation or adjustment of the body. Okay, so what is happening? Changes in blood. So bone marrow stimulation will be there, and you will see there is increase in the production of bone marrow, so that more and more RBCs are available for the carrying of oxygen to the tissues. To some extent, it will compensate, but it will not also help if the person is going very much high in height from sea level. Okay, so we know like there are hormones like erythropoietin which is coming from the kidney, which will go and stimulate the bone marrow for the production of more and more RBC, which will cause erythropoiesis. Okay, changes in blood. Cardiovascular system, what is happening? So in case of high altitude, the rate and force of contraction of heart will increase. That means cardiac output is increasing so that more and more blood is being pumped into the circulation. Okay, and then you will see more and more, as much as possible, every tissue is receiving oxygen. That is the uh, hard work our body is trying to compensate whenever the person is going to high altitude. So apart from that, you will see changes in respiratory system also, like pulmonary ventilation. That means rate and depth of respiration will increase so as to compensate for the presence of low oxygen in the atmosphere. Okay, so for this also we are, just now we studied about chemoreceptors. Do you remember, like when we were doing blood pressure? So wherever we had baroreceptors, that means in carotid and aortic bodies, there we also have chemoreceptors. Okay, so they will carry the chemical changes. That means through aortic nerve, nothing but vagus and glossopharyngeal nerves, they are carrying the information of chemical changes also to the brain. So suppose if carbon dioxide accumulation is there in the blood, the same carbon dioxide containing blood will go to medulla oblongata. So that will stimulate the respiratory centers. Do you remember we have dorsal group of neurons? Okay, so those respiratory centers are stimulated and then you will see rate and depth of respiration will be increasing. So this is the effect of high altitude, which is causing like respiratory centers also to work more actively. Okay, so that will be discussed like this. So diffusing capacity of gases, that means here carbon dioxide and carbon dioxide concentration is increasing. No? So it is causing the stimulation. Whatever oxygen is available, its diffusion capacity is also increasing, so that it is made available. Okay, Then changes in tissues. So both in human beings and animals residing at high altitude permanently, you will see there are active enzymes, cellular oxidative enzymes involved in metabolic reactions are more than inhabitants at sea levels. That means that is the adaptation you see there. Okay. So even when the sea level inhabitant stays at high altitude for certain period, the amount of oxidative enzymes is not increased. Okay. So the elevation in the amount of oxidative enzymes occurs only in fully acclimatized persons. Okay. If we are going only for a short period, we don't find such active enzymes. Only for the people who are always there, these mechanisms are there which will help them to adapt to that high altitude. Okay, so these mechanisms you have to write. Okay, so that is high altitude. Then we have very short notes like AV nodal delay. Juxtaglomerular apparatus we have already studied. AV nodal delay. What is do you remember the conduction system of heart beater?
Bundle of his.
Can you come in order, please? Bundle of his is correct.
SA node, AV node, the bundle of his, two bundle fibers, Purkinje fibers, bundle branches, Purkinje fibers, and musculature of ventricles.
Yeah, very good. So you repeat once more, beta. It will be a revision for others.
SA node, ma'am, AV node, bundle of his, two bundle branches, Purkinje fibers, ventricular musculature.
Okay, so this is our conduction system of heart. Okay, Ritika, this is the pacemaker of heart, the place where heartbeat is generated, that is SA node. From SA node, you will see the information is going to AV node. From AV node, it is going to bundle of His, then right bundle branch, left bundle branch, then we have all these are Purkinje fibers. Okay, so you will see the information is going from one place, gradually it is going and getting innervated to each of the ventricular and atrial muscular fibers for the heartbeat to generate, initiate and to pump. Okay, so AV nodal delay. That means the information is not passing from the AV node to the bundle of His. Okay, that's what. So AV nodal delay is discussed in 556 page. It's a 2 marks question. For you it will be 3 marks. Let us see what is given there. It's given here. AV nodal delay. So if this question comes, normal duration, this is now he's talking with PQRST curve, that is with ECG. So PR interval time, this also we have discussed, just try to correlate. So PR interval time is 0.18 seconds and it is varying between, that means this is the range, 0.12 to 0.2 seconds. If it is more than zero point 0.2, it signifies, what does it signify? It is nothing but delay in the conduction of impulse from SA node to the ventricles. Usually the delay occurs in AV node. So it is called as AV nodal delay. I told you, no, but from the AV node, the information is not moving to bundle of His. Further, it is not moving to Purkinje fibers. That's what is AV nodal delay. Okay. Anyhow, this question also will come as an essay. You need not worry. Cardiac cycle again we will repeat. Okay. This is for 3 marks it has come. So we'll discuss in short only. So then we have bicarbonate reabsorption from renal tubules. This is also 3 marks question, 323 page. So many, what are the various substances which are reabsorbed better? reabsorption of water, reabsorption of glucose, isn't it? So many sodium, chloride, so many chemicals are reabsorbed from the like renal tubules, nothing but PCT, Lilly's loop, and DCT. So now he is asking specifically reabsorption of bicarbonate. Okay, so that means bicarbonates are reabsorbed actively in which part of the nephron? It is proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, and bicarbonate it is reabsorbed in the form of carbon dioxide. Okay, mostly bicarbonate is present as sodium bicarbonate in the glomerular filtrate. The sodium bicarbonate dissociates into sodium and carbonate. That means Na plus HCO3 ions in tubular lumen. Sodium is going into tubular cell in exchange with hydrogen. We'll go with this 54.1 figure beta. There you will see in the diagrammatic form. 54.1. It becomes easy. Yeah. See here, it becomes easy now like this. This is the tubular cell. We are finding this is the sodium bicarbonate which is present in the lumen. We are not talking about bicarbonate reabsorption. So it is being split into sodium and bicarbonate. Sodium is going to tubular cell and bicarbonate is combining with hydrogen ion to form H2CO3. So this bicarbonate is now being reabsorbed in the tubular cell in the form of carbon dioxide. This is universal formula. No? CO2 combines with H2O to form H2CO3. So now this is the reverse of reaction what we are finding. Okay. So CO2 is now going into tubular cell. And finally it is absorbed into interstitial fluid. Okay, this thing you just elaborate for 3 marks. That is bicarbonate reabsorption. Okay, reabsorption of bicarbonate ions. Okay, that is. Then fever. Fever, what is fever? This is seen as in the last chapter of the system, 59. So whenever our body temperature is slightly increased than normal, you call it as fever, isn't it? Skin, and then we have functions, glands. Yeah, body temperature, heat tolerance. So fever has come for 3 marks. So this is fever. Hyperthermia, elevation of body temperature above a set point. Okay. Now see here, normal body temperature is how much better? 37.5 degrees centigrade usually. Suppose if it is above 38 to 39, generally consider it as low grade. If it is above, it is ranging between 39 to 40, moderate. If it is above 40 and 42, you call it as high grade fever. Okay. Hyperpyrexia, that means the temperature is too high. If it is above 42 degrees centigrade, when you measure with Fahrenheit, it is 107.6 Fahrenheit. That is hyperpyrexia. Then we have causes of fever, like it may be infection, hyperthyroidism, brain lesions, diabetes insipidus. Okay, these are the causes. Basic cause what most of us suffer is because of some underlying infection, but the other causes are these. Okay, what generally you imagine yourself whenever you had fever. These are the symptoms: headache, sweating. All these are very easy, but till here you have hypo means low temperature is falling. Till convulsions you have to study for fever. Okay, then we have sodium potassium pump. This also I have discussed many times when I was dealing with physiology. Where do we get this sodium potassium pump? 189 page.
Nephron.
Where beta Hina?
In DCT, ma'am.
Anything, anywhere else you have seen for the formation of action potential? This one,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? Did we
Okay.
speak here?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Muscle physiology. Okay, for the
Mm-hmm.
development of resting membrane potential, action potential, we will see. See, development of resting membrane potential by sodium potassium pump. So you should talk about, suppose whether this is skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle or whether it is neuron. In all these 3 areas, you will see this pump will be actively working so as to bring about some like potential. Resting membrane potential will be followed by action potential, isn't it? See, this is the curve. This is resting membrane potential, which is followed by like depolarization, repolarization, after repolarization, isn't it? Like this. So that means whether the muscle has to contract, certain ionic changes take place. Those ionic changes are brought about by this pump, that is sodium potassium pump. This is an enzyme. Sodium potassium ATPase enzyme will be there, which will be diffusing two potassium ions inside and three sodium ions outside. So because of more negativity developed inside the skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle or the neuron, you will see they will start contracting. That means it will shoot up in this way, which is called as depolarization. Pinkish one is a depolarization, bluish one is repolarization. You can see. Pinkish area is depolarization. The curve is going up. Bluish area is repolarization. The curve is coming down. Okay, beta? So that's what you should write for a sodium potassium pump. Anyhow, it is 3 marks. Then cyanosis. What is cyanosis? This is the last question. Cyanosis, do you remember 3 marks? Bluish discoloration of mucous membranes, isn't it? Why does it occur again? It is seen in case of high altitude also whenever there is more carbon dioxide accumulation in the blood. Okay. So, what is hypoxia? Hema? Ritika?
When the oxygen content is less.
Yeah. So, do you remember what are the various types of hypoxias? Better? Anemic hypoxia, histotoxic hypoxia, stagnant hypoxia, no? Hypoxic hypoxia. We discussed this. At least please write these answers better. Try to write so that you don't forget things. Okay? See. Hypoxia. As you said, low oxygen concentration in the blood is nothing but hypoxia. So we have different types of hypoxias. Anyhow, this is 3 marker now. Hypoxic, anemic, stagnant and histotoxic. Hypoxic means low oxygen concentration in the atmosphere. Anemic means RBC is low, though everything is normal. Because RBCs are low, the oxygen which is being pumped to the tissues is less. Stagnant means sluggish blood flow. Histotoxic means tissues are not in the position to accept oxygen. That is histotoxic. And what is cyanosis? Bluish discoloration of the mucous membranes, palm, soles, and also nails. That is nothing but cyanosis. Okay. Cyanosis, why does it occur? In this chapter only we have cyanosis. Why does it occur, Pata? Low oxygen concentration and high carbon dioxide concentration. It may be due to defects like septal defects. Newborn babies also may show cyanosis. Blue baby. Why does it occur? Because oxygen pumping is less. Interatrial septal defects, interventricular septal defects, something like that. Cyanosis is here or not? Okay. See. Cyanosis is bluish coloration of skin, mucous membrane due to the presence of large amount of reduced hemoglobin. Reduced hemoglobin means carbon dioxide concentration in the blood has increased. That's what is cyanosis. Okay. So where do we see bluish discoloration? Lips, cheeks, in small children, earlobes, nose, fingertips, base of the nails. Okay. So what are the conditions because of which it is occurring? Anything which is leading to arterial hypoxia and stagnant hypoxia. Only this point is asked actually. Arterial hypoxia means oxygen concentration in the tissues is like the blood is less. Nothing but something like anemic hypoxia. Stagnant means the blood flow is sluggish because of which the tissues are seen as blue, no oxygen supply to the tissues. Okay, so that is. So repeatedly same thing is being told, beta. Okay, so that's all. So paper is finished, beta. So will you write or not? Oh, lower limb only you didn't write. Okay, but I'm doing my duty up to you. If you are interested, you write. Otherwise, you just listen to my classes. It will be a revision for you. Daily one subject paper I will be solving. Okay, and for Emma, don't worry. I will take paper one more for anatomy so that head and neck questions will be covered more. Once I do that,
Okay.
then I will start paper two. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bye, ma'am. Thank you.